we'll do the live thing first. Like, hey everybody, welcome back to the Bigmark podcast. I'm your host, Bigmark. If it's your first time watching, welcome. If not, welcome back. Like I always say, if you ever wanted to reach out to the podcast for any reason, if you wanted to hear a topic or just let us know what you think, feel free to hit us up anytime on our DMs at the Bigmark Pod or at the Bigmark Podcast or on Twitter or on our Instagram. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure hit the subscribe button, and you can hit the bells if you'd like. But if you're subscribed, it'll show when our new videos come out right away. So you'll see them dropping as soon as everyone else does. So again, thank you all so much for being here. I really appreciate it. It's Boxing Day here in Canada right now. Here in sunny Hamilton, Ontario, we had zero snow. I'm talking literally zero. It's been miserable, foggy, rainy, not the nicest. But Christmas nonetheless was wonderful time. Family, friends, loved ones, all the types. Just the cheer and the joy in the season of love and forgiveness. Always a pleasure, always wonderful, always a little bit of a sad time to see things go. My poinsettia here, which is the second one of the season, sadly. As you all know, I'm a plant lover, but this one my mom kindly donated to the podcast. Thanks, Ma. Sitting in usually where our guest sits, so in the place of honor. But for some reason, I cannot keep a poinsettia, however the fuck you want to say it. I was looking up different causes, like basically what's happening again for all my plant lovers out there. Hit me up if you have any if you have any tips. It's like leaves are just falling like crazy, drying up, curling. I watered it. I feel like potentially it's overwatered, maybe not getting enough sun. I'm reading that maybe there's a change in temperature from the greenhouses, and then they get into a dry house and they get all fucked up. So anyway, this one's looking nice right now, so it's camera ready. But again, Boxing Day in Canada, as we call it, for all my international listeners who don't know, is the day we're boxing everything back up. So for some people anyway, Christmas kind of abruptly ends, but I don't necessarily want to pack it all away yet. Usually my hard deadline, at least for having the tree up, is New Year's Eve. So I'll leave it up at least for another few days or so. But, obviously one of the biggest things that I kind of snapped out of the Christmas stupor, as Jerry Seinfeld says, snapped out of it like a drunken stupor. But as I snapped out, I was like, oh man, we only listen to Christmas songs but once a year, but like December at least, it is such a high density of Christmas songs. And Christmas songs are really, like, when you really break them down, they are awesome. And it's a shame sometimes, well, not always a shame, I guess, but it's not the best thing that we let some of these wonderful songs that have beautiful messages and things like that only come up in our purview around Christmas just because they talk about Christmas. And it's funny, it led me to think about all the other things that Christmas songs do and how they kind of change the zeitgeist in general around music, especially streaming. They around Christmas, like, good luck releasing anything. We'll talk about that in a second, but obviously as soon as you think about Christmas songs, you can't help but think about Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas Is You. Tremendous song in its own right. I mean, it's obviously overplayed, and most of the time anyone hears it, especially if you ever worked in retail and you worked in a place where it was on the playlist or in a mall or whatever. Even if you've just spent a day Christmas shopping, you're going to hear this song multiple times. At this point, there's been 1.5 billion streams. Billion. And again, this only comes around Christmas. So billion streams, which at $0.005 dollars per play. So 0.05 cents per play, you're looking at $7.8 million right now that she's earned just from that song. So good for her. Just from that one song too. So tremendous for Mariah. And, you know, many people have covered it. In fact, one of my favorite bands, the Darcys, does an excellent cover. If you guys haven't heard that one, go check it out for sure. But again, you know, Christmas songs are wonderful. You know, the general vibe, joy, loving, peace, you know, understanding, all that gratefulness. Those are the wonderful songs. Those are the joyous ones. But there's also kind of more heartfelt ones, you know, Blue Christmases, and, you know, people feeling lonely during Christmas if they don't have loved ones, or if they're away from their family, or they can't make it home for Christmas, or loved ones we've lost and we miss them so much more at Christmas. And a lot of indie songs too, right? You know, they're always so lugubrious and like kind of like hell on earth sometimes, and they're almost, you know, complaining about, you know, in Grinchian fashion, complaining about the season itself and how much it's, you know, what are all these people doing? It's you know, a capitalist wasteland kind of thing. So this is the palette that you're going to encounter with any type of Christmas song, right? So as a band, you know, our fearless fiddler John Harley wrote a wonderful Christmas song, and I think it's really interesting. You know, when you do sit down, you go, okay, like, you have this huge palette of ideas to pull from, and so many experiences that you can kind of just like tap right into, right? Because again, it's just such a wonderful time of year, wonderful. You get the whole joyous spirit, just totally it encapsulates you, right? And there's so many feelings to portray. And I remember reading or listening to Rick Rubin's book, and one of his lines in it is talking about songwriting, and he's like, sometimes the creation of a song or like explaining a scene, it doesn't really take much more than literally doing that. Just saying, oh, you know, the snow is falling, you know, it's on the branches, it's cold outside, the kids are playing in the snow. Like, you're just explaining a scene. People are skating, holding hands, children laughing, people passing, right? Sometimes there's just some Christmas songs are just straight up that. They're just like explaining a Christmas scene, which is lovely. And again, that's like the goal of so many songwriters, and the ultimate effect of so many great songs are the simplicity of just like, hey, this is a scene. This is how I'm feeling looking at the scene, and it's really easy for the listener to kind of put themselves into that kind of mode, which is super awesome. Now, don't get me wrong, writing a Christmas song and releasing it during Christmas is super awesome. Now, releasing any other song during Christmas, not so awesome. And, you know, us as Reckless Harbor, my band Reckless Harbor, if you guys haven't checked us out, Reckless Harbor, if it's the first time listening, Reckless Harbor with a W, like no wrecks in the harbor. Check us out everywhere. We had an awesome Christmas season this year, actually, because last year I was away in Germany. But this season we put a little bit more effort into kind of doing some more stuff. We were invited to do the Dundas BIA initiative. I don't know what you call it. Dickens of a Christmas is what they called it. So they would shut down King Street in Dundas, Ontario, which is like the main street downtown. Not shut it down, people would still be drunk, but they'd open it up in a sense where shops would put little tables out or have sales and say, hey, there's going to be more people walking around. Let's encourage people to come down, and we'll have some music. So that's where Reckless Harbor came in. So we were doing Christmas carols or Christmas songs specifically, had some chances to practice them. And, you know, those times are so wonderful because, you know, you're playing for little kids and you get to see the wonder there. And as I mentioned in the Christmas Spooktacular last week, you know, you see something special for the kids because, you know, they're willfully unaware of kind of all the efforts that are being put into creating the Christmas magic, but that's what makes it seem magic, I feel, right? Because it's just kind of like happening around them. But us playing those songs, you get to feel a little bit more intimate. Some of them are crazy hard. Some of them are like kind of jazzy. You know, you get into more like, oh my gosh, I always forget this song too. And it was a song that that one of my older bands did. Actually, I got to look it up here because it always slips my mind. But it's one of those songs that when you actually go to play it, it becomes this. It actually, like, you discover, oh my gosh, look at some of these chords here, right? Like, have yourself a merry little Christmas, right? Everyone knows that song. Wonderful song. Have yourself a merry little Christmas. Let your heart be light. You know, it's like do 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 ba 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 ba. Like, those are like interesting kind of like jazzy chord changes, right? And you know, when you're playing it around a campfire, around the hearth for your family, and they say, "Oh, play Have Yourself a Merry Christmas," super easy. All of a sudden, there's these 7 chords and stuff, and then you're going, I don't know what's happening. But then there's some that are super easy. Everything seems to be like in G, the key of G, D, A minor, kind of easy peasy, F, super fun. Again, somewhat folk music too, and so much of this stuff is like public domain that people have been just playing it for years. And that's the interesting thing too about Christmas songs, is because they've kind of become folk songs, different interpretations of different songs become so cool. And, you know, in fact, Reckless Harbor, we did an interpretation, or if you will, our own cover of Christmas Must Be Tonight by the band, which is one of our favorite songs. Beautiful lyrics, extremely Christian, talking about like the manger scene when Jesus is born, but it's beautiful, super cool, kind of funky little backbeat to it. And it is on our YouTube channel right now, and check out our Instagram to take you right there. But we recorded ourselves just kind of on the fly. Wasn't something that we were planning on releasing on any streaming platforms or anything. It's just kind of one of those things where we did it a little bit more just for fun and increase our presence around Christmas time. But again, just doing our own kind of vibe of that, and feeling a part of all the other people who have maybe done covers of that, feeling a part of somehow the band because they created that song. You know, some people kind of look down on covers, and I've never really understood that. I mean, I come from a place where that's where I learned to play music. That's how I learned to play music, was playing covers, you know. Oh, I love this song. How can I learn? Oh, there's these things called tabs. They basically hold your hand and show you exactly what to play and where to put your fingers, and or at least once you know the chords, they tell you what chords to play for practically any song. And yeah, maybe it's not exactly what the musicians did on the record, but it's going to sound like that to you. And again, it taught me how to play guitar, right? It helped me learn the basic chords at least, and then learn what chords go where, and generally speaking, some of the patterns that happen in music. And again, it wasn't as concerted as someone sitting me down and saying, here are the modes, here are the scales. But in all the songs I learned to play, and the songs that I loved, you know, weren't always just super simple. When I finally learned to play them, all of a sudden I seemed to have gained this new skill and understanding of music. But yet people look down on cover bands and they go, oh, those guys are just like, it's like musical cheating almost. But like, you still need to play the music. You still need to be, you know, perform it well and have the ability to perform it. So I never really understood the animus. I don't know, the negative thinking that surrounds covers. And then some people too, like, you know, approach covers where it's like, it's got to be a note for note remake, but it's like, what's the point of doing a remake? Yes, it's going to sound different because we're different musicians and our voices are going to be different, and the way we play our instruments are going to be different, but why not add a little bit of our own little flair into it too, right? And make it our own. Who cares if it's not perfect? You know, if it sounds better, all the better. If it sounds like us, that's what we want. So, again, Christmas songs and stuff, you're more than welcome to throw your hat in the ring, whether you're gonna record like a song that's public domain, or try to figure out the logistics of doing a cover, or writing your own Christmas song completely. Releasing that during Christmas is probably your only thing you could possibly ever do if you ever think about releasing songs during Christmas, because if not, you're just competing with all these other Christmas songs, and Mariah, in fact, her specifically. You're going to have to deal with her, because again, streaming right now, as I mentioned before on other podcasts, streaming, the whole system is basically built around getting on playlists. That's what's going to get you out there. That's what's going to get your name out there. That's how people are going to hear about you for the first time. So streaming also essentially acts as this like marketing dollar now for musicians, where, you know, it used to be this huge revenue stream for artists. You know, your recorded music was precious and important, and again, that was your bread and butter essentially. And then you also played live shows to essentially promote the album. And you made some money doing that as well, but you also spent a lot of money driving around, paying for hotels, bus drivers, stadiums, and all that shit. Again, not like there's no money coming in, but again, there was different streams back in the day, and now basically you're making most of your money from live shows. That's why live shows are a lot more expensive, and you're depending on who you are. If you're Taylor Swift or Drake, you're making some good coin from streaming. But realistically, most other artists, you're making such little money that it could possibly cover some of your like recording costs, but realistically, you're paying that recording cost as like a marketing dollar to get your then recorded music on streaming, to get it out there. Because I actually saw this TikTok the other day where when you are gonna going to look to a booker, contact a booker, try to get into a show, a festival, whatever. Yes, it's important for them to see that you have streaming, but in fact, almost when you're sharing your music with those type of industry folk, it's almost better to share a Bandcamp link, because Bandcamp is a lot easier to access. You don't have to have a password, even though of course most bookers are going to have some type of Spotify or Apple Music, but it just allows them to not have to worry about, you know, signing in if they're like on the work computer or something or whatever. So Bandcamp is super key that way. So as soon as we're done recording, we can always throw that up there, but that is free. Yeah, it's completely accessing it for free. There's no paywall there at all. So again, it's what it is, and it's how the music industry has completely shifted again away from that kind of studio, the importance of the studio record. And now it's more about like your live performance, how you get out there, getting on other modes of avenues, if you will, of just kind of getting your name out there, because no one like there's so much noise, right? There's so many other bands that are out there right now that you have to do something to just rise above the din for people to hear you. And yeah, it seems like, oh, you're trying to push and push and push. It's like, well, if no one hears your music, like what's the point of doing all this, right? So you do have to push a little bit, don't get me wrong. And yes, sometimes you have to take an egotistical, or at least, self-confident stance when it comes to the industry. But if you're proud of your music, that should be easy. And I'm proud of my music. So Reckless Harbor, check us out. Christmas Must Be Tonight on YouTube's right now. We're probably going to record this Christmas song though that John wrote for us, because it's fucking awesome, but that'll be coming out next Christmas, so don't hold your breath for that one. But again, just going through some of these songs too, when we were playing them for the Dickens Christmas, or even when we were kind of deciding on what we were going to do for this Christmas. And I had always had Christmas Must Be Tonight in the back pocket. I thought we would do an awesome job with it. It has beautiful lyrics. It was awesome. I'm proud of what we did for sure. And Jared Helder, Lauren's brother, our artistic director for the band, helped us out big time with his cinematography and directorial skills and film editing skills. But again, kind of pouring over some of these lists, and I have my own Christmas playlist that I've kind of put together that even has some songs that I didn't really come across on some playlists, either from movies or maybe potentially somewhat more unknown unknown Christmas songs or songs that potentially you wouldn't even necessarily consider to put on a Christmas playlist because maybe they just mention it. You know, it's almost like Fairy Tale in New York, R.I.P. to Shane MacGowan. But, you know, when he mentions Christmas Eve and he was born on Christmas Day. But the song isn't per se a Christmas song. So, you know, Christmas Must Be Tonight is very much so a Christmas song. Or Let Me Sleep, It's Christmas Time by Pearl Jam. You know, yes, that's in the chorus, but who knows? Again, it's just, there's other songs out there that you don't have to, it doesn't always have to be All I Want for Christmas Is You, right? Like, you know, some of my favorite songs anyway. I think ultimately my favorite Christmas song, period, is Carol of the Bells, right? It's like, you know, more choral, more like orchestral, if you will. But something about that, the changes in it, just the power of it, the way it's used in, like my favorite Christmas movie soundtrack is Home Alone, and the way they use it in there, I think, is what really leads me to love that song. Because also one of my favorite choral, like choir songs, is "Oh Holy Night," and they do an "Oh Holy Night" in Home Alone, and it is just phenomenal. There's like these beautiful modal changes, like into like major minor changes and things, and like you're just like beautiful and haunting and awe-inspiring, right? Like, I mean, I do truly appreciate that part of religious music, is that you're truly inspiring this awe, this true sense of awe and wonder, and it's so cool. And yeah, maybe it's like a propaganda arm of the Vatican or whatever, but super beautiful music. Like, oh my gosh. One of my favorite, another great Christmas album is Motown Christmas. I've given that to my mom for Christmas before, but it's a great compilation of awesome Motown, like the Temptations and Staple Singers and the Jackson 5 and Aretha, and like all those like kind of Motown singers doing all these Christmas songs. Like there's a Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer Temptations cover there that's like super funky, and oh, I love it so much. I also came across this other 2-volume set, Holidays Rule, Volume 1 and 2. Beautiful lineup on each record, you know, from Rufus Wainwright, for a kid who used to have a speech impediment, Rufus Wainwright has one of the hardest names that I could possibly fucking say. Rufus Wainwright to Andrew Bird, to bands that sound like Zooey Deschanel. Anyway, there's super cool bands on there. I think there's some Shin stuff. Anyway, really cool. Paul McCartney's on there doing a cover with Jimmy Fallon of Simply Having, or it's just called Wonderful Christmas Time, I believe. But super, super cool mix. Again, I know by the time you're hearing this, it's going to be a couple days after Christmas, but the spirit lives on, at least around here, till January 1st. So keep it with you. Keep it in your heart. Check out some of these ones if you're still playing Christmas music. Again, you know, it's just kind of one of those things where we've expanded Christmas kind of almost outside of, you know, outside of December. It really goes into November. Really, once Halloween is over, it's Christmas. So, you know, it used to be kind of the few days around Christmas, the week of Christmas, couple weeks before, you know, blah, 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 all the way out to December. You're like, okay, pretty acceptable from December 1st to really, you know, change all the stores over to Christmas, looking Christmas, and all the feelings and the channels and the Christmas songs on the radio. Yeah, December 1st, that, you know, feels like it makes sense. But, you know, since we've expanded this so much more, we really just hammer out some of these Christmas songs. And again, like I said, if you've ever worked in retail or anywhere where there's like a Christmas playlist on, people can start to despise some of these songs, right? And that's just, it's sad because they speak the truth of what music should be, you know. Love building love, whether it is maybe more sad, negative, you know, perspectives, if you will. There's still perspectives of love, man. You know, Loneliness is a lack of love. So we're still talking about that. We're still talking about wanting it and striving towards gaining it and striving towards building that love and peace and prosperity that, we should all do. We should all lead with love. We should all live our lives. If we have the choice between building love and tearing it down, we should always choose to build love in any sense. If that's anything that we can do, if we have any power and any choice in any matter, we should always choose to lead with love, create love, add to that growing heart that is love, and not take away from it. And when you take away from it, you add to negativity and evil and hatred. The opposite of love is fear, and fear tells you to put more locks on your doors and close yourself off the eyes of love. Look at everyone as we're the same and we want to build. Bill Hicks said that. So continue on the spirit of love and friendship and tradition and peace and understanding and everything all year long. Doesn't just have to be around Christmas. Thank you all for listening. Go listen to some Christmas songs. Check out Reckless Harbor. I love you all. Patreon. Check us out on our DMs, YouTubes, subscriptions. Love y'all. Peace.